Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is Monday, November 8th, 2021. And I'm doing a lot better these days with remembering the date. I type it and then for some reason wind up forgetting it. But good morning, everyone. Again, it is Monday, November 8th, 2021. And it is Mental Health Mondays. And so we're going to get into that in just a couple of seconds. But let's begin. We haven't been together all weekend, though we were together on Saturday. And I spent some time with one of the Java fam and some others on Saturday with Greater Love in Charlotte. We'll talk about that later. But Daryl, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. Props, my brother, aesthetics creator here in the cafe. Good to see you in the room. Sharon Cornelius. What were you doing yesterday? Who were you hanging out with yesterday? Good to see you in the room as well. Naraki, good morning, beautiful. Good to see you in the room. Sister Debbie, good morning. I thought about you this weekend. I had to pick up a nice 5-pound bag of flour because I need some biscuits in my life. And so those are coming some more. Another second time iteration is coming. But good morning to you. Nikki, my sister, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. Charlotte, good morning. Just talking about you. Had the opportunity to spend some time with you on Saturday. Good morning. Good morning. Props is saying top of the morning to everyone. Naraki is shouting out her homegirl, Sharon Cornelius. And there is Pastor Marion. Pastor Marion, good to see you in the room. And Charlotte, thank you so much. It was definitely and I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. It was definitely eye-opening, some things that I've experienced and knew from being in the medical industry, but to hear this research, doctorate level researcher talk about what he's experienced in working with different staff members and those that are, take advantage and utilize the healthcare industry, especially men. It was interesting to hear a lot that he had to say. So, Pastor Marion, as always, thank you so much. Don't forget, everybody, it is Mental Health Monday. So as we do in the Java Cafe every week, think about your mental health status. Sit back for a second. Whether you are, now if you're driving, pay attention, maybe just think about it. But if you're watching on Facebook, if you're listening, don't forget, everyone, yes, we're on Facebook, but you can put your phone down and still do other things. So don't, think that you necessarily have to watch. You can listen in as well. But if you get a chance, drop your comments in the or drop your mental health status by using one word in the comments and let us know how you're doing this morning. Dina, my sister, is in the room saying good morning. Good to see you. Dina, drop those stars. You know what? I need to go finish setting that up because I don't even know if anyone has dropped any stars yet. So I need to take care of that. Thank you. Send me a text later and push me to make sure I finish registering. Kevin, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you in the room. Jennifer, good morning. Jen, rather. Good to see you in the room as well. And Sharon Cornelius. That's what you was doing yesterday, sitting with Mayor Wu and taking pictures with her. I seen him. Sister Rena, good morning. It was good to see you Saturday at the in the space, the virtual space of the Men's Health Conference. It was definitely a dope event. Again, we're going to talk about it later. Rob is saying good morning and letting us know that his word for Mental Health Monday is blessed. Rob, brother, good to see you in the room. Rena, good morning again. Good to see you. It was definitely a good up. Dina said, yes, you have gotten stars. Okay, so I need to go register. I'll make that announcement. So Facebook reached out and the platform is growing and doing different things. And they said, hey, Allow people to support you. And if they send you stars, that's equivalent to money. And so, yes, Dina, thank you. I will go and buy the end of the day. I'll get it set up for sure. Sharon Cornelius is saying, yes, she was chilling with the mayor yesterday, the mayor-elect. Cindy, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. Definitely making that announcement in a couple of seconds. And so we checked in around our mental health status. I saw blessed and grateful. So great that everybody's doing pretty good this morning. I just want to check in for Mental Health Monday and say my word for today is concerned. I don't know if some of you saw, but over the weekend, there was a, now that I have the information, per what the mainstream media says, there was an incident where the police were called to a domestic violence situation. The story is saying that, or what's being reported is that when the police arrived, the person that was called was that the person that they called on had a knife, and long story short, a police officer wound up getting stabbed. And my understanding from what I saw in the media is that other officers got injured as well, and they had to shoot the young man and he died. And so there was someone, a city official on the scene, and called and said, hey, there's a lot of social media commentary getting ready to happen. We know you have the platform. You might want to just let the community know there aren't a lot of details, but mainstream media the next day framed one of the stories as police shoot a man, something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but I think I know the concern from the city official was that, you know, we are in a very interesting time when it comes to police reform. There is also the incidents that are going on in our schools. And so I put up a post yesterday that basically said that those that are anti-police reform are going to pounce and talk about why police need to be in schools. There's different opinions about that, how they act in schools, what their protocols are, their approach, the staff that are in schools, down to their uniform. There's a lot of conversation about that. The other thing is that the people that I say reform extremists are going to use this situation as well. And so what the cadence of that call was that, hey, let the community know, yes, there was an incident, but there is sort of definitely a backstory because someone was killed, and not a backstory, but an investigation will need to be done. I put up a post yesterday saying hopefully it will be done quickly, with some context of some other observations of cases that may not have involved a police officer, but a white female, and they were resolved, you know, kind of quickly. And so I won't say who, but a good friend and sister reached out that knows the law and said, hey, this isn't going to be quick. So make sure you don't set a false expectation within the community. I reached out to the district attorney because I found myself saying that night that we want to watch her cadence as far as from the activism or action side. If we need to step up some of the holding the line for police reform, we definitely need to step that up. If we need to step that up, I believe that the results of her investigation, finding out what happened, the history of this officer, you know, the other thing that will be taken into consideration is this was a situation where they were called for domestic violence. I talked to a former police officer, a law enforcement officer, the other day. There was a special ops. And what they said was that being called into a domestic violence situation is one of the most dangerous for police because you don't really know. Most of those situations you don't know. But, you know, you get called for shooting, kind of have an expectation. He was saying with domestic violence situations, you get the call in the moment. Let's say it's a female calling on a male. The female calls in the moment, and then, you know, within 2 or 3 minutes of the police getting there, the man may say something, and, you know, she's like, okay, but the police come and have to do a wellness check or whatever. And then, you know, that person that called the police may, you know, when they start, if the man gets upset, They may start interacting with the man. The woman gets upset, may attack a police. I mean, there's, and when they explain the possible scenarios, I get it. And so this is definitely any conversation that I've had since last year and before last year about, police reform and defunding the police became the encapsulated statements around what needs to change around systemic racism in law enforcement here in America and in Boston, in I believe the country's oldest police department that was really created to capture runaway slaves. Context and history is everything. However, have there been changes? So all of that being said, my suggestion is that we watch the cadence of the district attorney. In the past, she has been very honest and transparent about things. And then we also, Mental Health Mondays, we need to talk about, mental health. And I don't know the details of this case or this young man. And Lord, I got, may get in trouble. I may have gotten in trouble the other night because I said we needed to pray for the officer and the staff and the partner that works with here, him or her. But we also need to keep the family of this young man that lost his life. Somebody, I don't care. I heard some buzz about it was domestic violence. And, once, he attacked a policeman, it was over then. I've heard stuff like that. But we need to definitely keep the family of this man in prayer. And then as a community, we pray for we pray for justice and we pray for peace, according to Micah 6:8. And so that is sort of my commentary, unsolicited or not there. But when I got the call, I'll tell y'all, I fought for like 2 or 3 minutes, just nervous, just like, wait, what? Like and not having all the facts, you know what I mean? But then the next day when I saw one of the, I won't say what said mainstream media written one did it, but their headline was interesting. And so again, if the reform extremists take this and manipulate the narrative or the message of it, could call for some certain actions. And, we just have to pay attention to the investigation, pay attention to what's going on. Let me also say this. There was also a buzz, and I put a post up about what's going on with our young people and violence in schools. I understand there was a situation in Nubian Square or something the other day. Forest Hills tends to be an issue. I remember that at least there was a time where we had our street workers at the let out, school let out. That's what I call it. They say that about the clubs, but I'm saying at the school let out. I was saying it about the church too, when the church lets out a few weeks ago. But, Michelle Wu was asked if she would allow or want the police, or does she think the police need to be back in school? And she said, no. With all due respect to our mayor-elect, that it isn't even her decision now. And I was trying to find it and get the bill in which the legislature, as of July 1st, how police and their protocols and their vicinity and when they go into schools is changed according to the state legislature. So it's not, does the mayor have some influence in working with the school police and the police department? Yes. I'll just say very quickly, my opinion is BPD on a consistent basis, my opinion would be no. But with that, we have to understand that there are so many other departments within the city of Boston and the state that if more aggressive conversation happen around getting what they offer into the homes and into the schools of these young people that even pre-pandemic had a lot of issues. There was a comment on my post that talked about, yes, the pandemic exacerbated a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that our schools and our teachers and our staff are not equipped enough, from facilities to books to student support. And then I'm going to say a hard thing. We also, as a community, within our households and families, have to figure out what it is we aggressively are doing as parents to put supports in place. Now, if you've done everything and you've exhausted, made the calls, sent the emails, and folks aren't following up, then you raise your voice and get along with folks like other parent organizations and raise your voice and find out how to navigate through that system, which is unfortunate because you're working, you're trying to take care of your children, you don't know, what's going on. We had hybrid model, all that other stuff. And, so it is imperative that we figure out a way to hold leadership responsible. I will say that I reached out to the superintendent's office. I did get a response. They didn't say a definite yes, but the language was sort of, we're going to try to get her on with you because I think it's important that, and not saying that they're not doing this in other spaces in the media and whatnot, but having some conversation here based on the comments and stuff I see here, what you all are asking. And so there's an invite out to the school superintendent to come as well. There's also an invite out to the district attorney, Rachel Rollins, because as I found myself saying the other night, watching her cadence. And so there is a process in which police involved shootings are investigated here in the county, and the DA oversees that. And so I was asking, she cannot go into any specifics of the case at all. That's a known thing before even reaching out. But I asked if she would come and just kind of generally talk about the process in general. My understanding is that the police commissioner are going to, I guess, pull some community together and talk about the case. And I don't know if there's, police cam or whatever, a body cam or whatever. I'm not sure. So that's sort of some justification or some validity around why I feel concerned, why that is my mental health Monday word for today, because there's a narrative that's being put out there about a lot of our Black and brown children. There has been, and now with footage and the media, and we have a seasoned white woman that has been assaulted that is in the media. This is now, let me be clear. Now I'm old school. Children assaulting anyone, each other. We'll sidebar that for a minute because that's been going on in the schools before COVID, during COVID, and what type of aggressive support and coverage, support systems and coverage of that has been going on in a manner that it brings support into the school. But this is no slight to her and no excuse for anyone assaulting anyone. But we just have to watch the optics of things. There's something that I discussed with Congresswoman Presley on a conversation one day. This term around action optics, similar to the narrative. This is why hood Black media is important, because there's a narrative being put out by mainstream media that is very, very interesting on both ends about what went on at the Henderson. And also, if you watch and pay attention, on one hand, some people saying the incident with the police involved shooting is not getting a lot of coverage from over the weekend. And some people are saying then just wait. So the investigation in that case is going to be a lot. But anyway, back to the point about, paying attention and why my word is concerned, because there are so many moving pieces going on right now. We have a transition going on with the mayor-elect. We have police reform sort of in front of us. We also have the implementation of, at the state level, yes, there was a success of Yes on 3, where now we'll have an elected school committee. But now we have to make sure we support Councilor Arroyo and Mejia in getting that, holding the line and getting that through the home rule petition. And so when we're asked to testify and show up in a Zoom, or if they have it at City Hall, be aware. So I see some comments in here, and I'm going to go back and talk about them. My friend and officer who was in the room that I used to work on 5 with, Lauren is in the room. Good to see you in the room. And please feel free to let me know if I'm not being balanced or whatever. I have some opinions from an activist standpoint often, but I am trying as much as possible to be balanced in this cafe. But let's check in on the comments. I did not, so I can't see when you all put like memes and pictures and stuff, it doesn't show up on StreamYard. So just FYI, Rena is saying that her word for the morning is challenged. Kelly, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Mama Java is in the room. Good morning, Ma. Good to see you in the room. I'll follow up with you. If not later in the morning, I'm going to give them a day to try to get in touch with you and do what they need to do. And you know what I'm talking about. Jen is saying, my heart breaks as a domestic violence survivor. I pray for all involved. PTSD is no joke. This is so sad. It is. It really, really is. Rob is saying that the conversation about police reform has brought about some awareness, and you see more videos of officers holding other officers accountable. A lot more work needed, but it's getting there. Absolutely, Rob. Absolutely. Thanks for raising that. So here, my mom is not introducing, but is saying that she didn't think that they had to kill him. And then I saw another comment that said, why, did they shoot to kill? Not a law enforcement official, but on the outside looking in from a lot of incidents, and I've been on the street, there was at least one time I know for sure. We were on the corner. I don't even remember where, but I remember a light-skinned officer. He had a limp. He wore glasses. He had very, very thin hair. And I remember him running to the car. They were at one incident, and a call came through about an officer in trouble. I don't remember the exact words. And when I tell you, everybody that was on the scene where I was packed up and got up out of there quickly. From what the media covered about, at the hospital, law enforcement officers were flanked there, making sure that their brother is okay. Presumably, I believe it was a male that was shot, that was stabbed. Is there a different level of adrenaline that officers experience when anybody does when they come under attack? And are we aware that there is a different, I don't know what the word is, aggression or whatever, when that call goes out, and then we, according to what's in the media now, the investigation's not over. It's alleged that this man injured others and stabbed the police officer. And so we don't know. I don't know. I'll say I don't know if it was that officer that shot and caused, and as a result of the shooting, his demise and his death. And I'm going to keep reiterating that someone, somebody, somewhere loved that young man. He's a human being, just like the officer is. And so this thing is loaded. And so anyway, I got on that by seeing my sister in the room, and also Rob's comment. And also mainly that last part, based on what my mother said, I don't think they had to kill him. And Ma, thank you for saying that, because we don't know. We don't know. We weren't there. You never have to kill someone. With that being said, there comes a point where one feels if their life or other person feels, maybe Dina was saying if their life is in danger, just not, we will hear the findings eventually. So Dina's making my point that, we kind of wait out the investigation. And to those that feel we're tired about investigations, and we're tired that, we are hearing about people being investigated, and now 30 years later, they're coming home because the investigation was false. This is why I found myself saying in real time the other night, we got to watch. I trust the integrity of Rachel Rollins. I do. And so that's why I found none of that was planned the other night, but I found myself saying, watch her and her cadence, as that I believe will be a good indicator on how the community responds. And we got a couple of levels of community. We got the extreme reformists. We got defund and maybe a redirect funding of the police. And then we got, absolutely hell no, not at all, more police. And so when we say community, I'm more talking about on the, I guess I can say left side. And so, all right, Tony, I'm late. Good morning, Java family. What I missed, just talking about the weekend, the shooting, sir, BPS and the support they need, and how community needs to stand up. There should be, I would hope that there's footage, and I'll leave that there. Pastor Marion is saying, my question, James, why do they have to shoot to kill? We don't know. And most of the time when that question is asked, I've heard people talk about the fact you can aim for, in the midst of Aubrey's case going on. And I'm reading some of the stuff about when they shot him so point blank range with that shotgun or rifle that they used, that a ligament was basically gone. That wasn't law enforcement. I believe at one point that guy was, anyway, I don't want to get into naming, not having the solid facts, but we don't know the details of that situation when he got stabbed. I'm not even getting into trying to, whoa, I got to get lights and stuff fixed in here or figure it out. But Rob, I agree with you. Hopefully there is body cam footage. Ma is asking my question exactly. Why do they shoot to kill? Accountability is definitely needed. Definitely needed. Just trying to catch up with the comments, you guys. Daryl's letting us know he feels optimistic, which is dope. So the words this morning has been, I'm the one with the concerned sort of sentiment today. Rob is saying the fact that they had to shoot and kill wouldn't bother me if there was more consistency in the way people of color and white people are handled. That, Sir Rob, that potentially, again, it didn't happen Friday, so I'm not trying to really mention it too much, but I want to make sure my ringer's on because I'm potentially expecting a phone call. So let me just make sure this is all tuned up and I can see it and ready here. It's getting warm in here. So finally rearranged the studio, but I had to shut a door in this vent in here. Jesus, it's hot. Oh, and I was thinking about air. I have to hold space for a couple of minutes. And I believe it was the Astroworld. What's his name? Rob, tell me who the artist is where the incident was out in Houston, where 8 people were killed, where there was a concert, that Astroworld concert. I can't remember the artist's name, but we definitely have to hold space for those that lost their lives in that. And my understanding is there's another investigation that will be done there. But, when our young people go out, and there were older people there as well, in these big settings, and we still have something called COVID going on, and I didn't see a whole lot of masks. And Texas ain't, Texas don't have a history for being, fully vaccinated and whatnot. So there's that. But then 8 people lost their lives because of bad planning, what is perceived as bad planning, and not good crowd control. And there are people that are now having PTSD around not wanting to be in crowds. This is why mental health is so important, because in general it is. And then when you have these experiences and then you're dealing with poverty and systemic racism, and anyway, we're going to talk more about it later. I'm going to kind of move away from the weekend. And Sharon is also saying she trusts Rachel as well. Dina is sharing that officers are people, not machines or robots. It's their racism in the system. Yes, but not all, just as there is racism in the world. Absolutely. Props is saying the officer doesn't keep his training up to par. A life and death split-second decision may likely have great mistakes. Absolutely, sir. Jen is saying, how about less corruption when it comes to Jen, I'm not messing with you. And there is a props again, a little to the left, may miss. When you say a little to the left, props, were you referring to about, the community? When I was talking about the opinions, Travis Scott, props. Thank you. So Travis Scott was the artist. And I wanted to hold space. Thank you all. Tony is, about, who the artist was. And just, there's reports that, the police have forewarned him about, crowd control and things like that. So, yes, thank you all. Thank you all for letting me know about that. And I did see that people are suing the artists. They're now filing suits for not having things planned. And so be careful. And again, there's something called COVID out there. So, but 8 people. So please put the prayers. Actually, y'all know that's high fives. That's not praying hands. Prayers and love for those that lost their lives, and all their family and friends and the people that were with them, that went to the concert with them, and they had to leave without them. Mental health is real, everyone. I'm going to move away into looks like I'm trying to do better, guys, and take notes and have a flow. Mental health is definitely important, and this is why we have Mental Health Mondays. So I wanted to share a couple of things with you that are taking place, and I need to get these flyers queued up and ready so I can show you guys. But one of the first things I wanted to mention is that on Saturday, November 27th at 11 a.m., the Java family is coming together for the very, very first live, it's not studio, live underground cafe and lounge audience broadcast. And so we're going to come together and just meet one another. Everyone, will need to wear their mask unless they're eating or drinking. I went to that space this weekend, and it is just a nice space. I'm going to check in with the owner about capacity, because depending on what I feel as far as a buzz, I might do a quick little registration to make sure, we're not over capacity. I'm going to be there for 2 hours from 11 to 1. I'm currently doing a couple of panels. One is about green space, and talking about, Black joy in spaces in the city, but then also, with marijuana being legal here in Massachusetts, where is the equity for Black folks? I see a lot of movement for Black folks getting their shops open and whatnot, but what's going on behind the scenes and how equitable is it really? And so that's one of the panels. We're going to do a sort of a Jimmy lets his hair down 101 interview. I don't know who's going to do that yet, but I'm just going to allow them. We're not going to prepare. They can ask whatever questions. We may take some questions from audience. All right, I'm getting back to that period where I used to be, y'all, where I'm like, wait, what? But yeah, please keep that in mind for the 27th. I also where we were talking about mental health, and there is an aspect of mental health that we really need to keep in mind in reference to, I'm just trying to make sure I got all my flyers ready. When it comes to our finances, and if you really think about it, and this is actually a catalyst to which I started a business. I was asked, what's holding you up in doing more and being more impactful? And I was like, life, finances, hustling to make sure rent is paid and stuff like that. And when we have freedom in our finances, it really, really helps on a mental health. You can ask spouse, you can ask married couples, you can ask almost anybody really. But even in that case, if you look at marriages that are dealing with some issues sometimes, along with all the other things, I can almost not guarantee, but I can venture to say that money is an issue, when they got a headache that night. So, James, where are you going with this? I always, from the reason I went live the very first day was from a mental health space. And so we've always curated a conversation around mental health. And then as things progress, we got to Mental Health Mondays. And so we are kind of raising the bar on Mental Health Mondays. So beginning next Monday, November 15th at 9 a.m., you all are very familiar with Dr. Brandy Brooks from Dee Dee's Cry. She's a professor. She is not a practicing therapeutic clinician, but however, she teaches in the clinical space. And so she is going to start joining me every Monday at 9 a.m. Not right at 9, but into the show. And we're going to have sort of a more focused conversation with different topics around mental health. We'll still do our one word, but Dr. Brandy is going to do what she does, similar to what she does on Dee Dee's Cry, Fridays 5 at 5, what she does on the Dee Dee's Cry sessions that I host as the digital director for Dee Dee's Cry that you have seen. And so we're raising the bar with her, because I'm not a clinician and she isn't either a therapeutic clinician. However, she knows that space very well. The other thing I wanted to mention, that beginning today, talking about mental health for your midday Java on Spark FM Online, we are entering a partnership with someone who's not a stranger to the Java Cafe, but Naisha Deed is the founder. She's a public speaker and founder of Pure Spark. And so we're going to, again, further and raise the content for you on Midday Java on Spark FM beginning today at 1 p.m. with Naisha Deed. And I just said a few minutes ago that finances are an issue. And so we are when I tell you that this here has been in the planning, I can at least say we had our first Zoom in August, and then months and months, I think so, almost a year. This brother, who is Jelani K. Lynch, he is the CEO of Ambition of the City. He did a Kwanzaa session with me around the economic principle of Kwanzaa. And so not too long after that, I think we were texting, it could have been that same night. I said, bruh, I want to bring you in on a segment and talk about finances. Kwanzaa is coming up in about 8 weeks again. So after almost a year, we are glad that beginning today, he's actually at 1:30. So I must have put the wrong flyer in there. I'll fix that later. That's actually at 1:30 that his segment is going to start. And so Naisha Deed, Mental Health Mondays with Pure Spark on Midday Java on Spark FM, and then also Ambition of the City beginning at 1:30 p.m. All right. So those are the things that are coming up in the Java Cafe. I also wanted to thank Charlotte, who was in the room. I had the opportunity this weekend to host this event. Brothers, we need to get back to care. Period. And speaking of getting back to care, tomorrow, Dr. Claude Alabre, who is the medical director for Your Healthy Java, the partnership with Java with Jimmy, and also Mass General Hospital, he's coming back tomorrow to talk about getting back to care. There's a video that he sent me. He has a whole slide presentation. And so that's taking place tomorrow at 9 a.m. With Dr. Alabre. But between prepping for that and having the opportunity to host this event with Dr. Rudell and Dr. Lee, and Charlotte knows what happened. We got on that call and they were like, oh, we heard about you. We're going to be reaching out. And so Dr. Lee is going to be coming in and talking about something very relevant to Black men and when it comes to health, prostate cancer. And the stuff that he revealed around when we get diagnosed, when we go into care, and the likeliness of us coming out of prostate cancer in a healthy manner. If some of the systems and how we interact with the system, I shared it on Java with Jimmy. Go watch Saturday's session. It's on Charlotte James's personal page, but then also, go watch it there. Make sure you watch it. All right. I also wanted to mention and remind everyone, my good friend and brother is in the room. I need to go back and find his comment so you all can see the link there. Where is it? We know that part of the Java fam, Brother Quincy, who was with me last week, is still doing the survey. We had a very in-depth conversation about that on Thursday, so go back and watch that one as well. But he's currently conducting a survey for the LGBTQI plus community. And also we had conversation. If you're an ally, if you're a parent, if you're a offspring of a senior who's experiencing discrimination in a senior setting. Quincy corrected me. We're not saying elderly anymore. Senior. And I did not know that. I'm trying to be, and it was no disrespect, but we are saying that is the embraced, accepted word. But if you know of a senior who is part of the community and is experiencing racism and, just discrimination around their sexuality, take that survey and let Brother Quincy know. And then if it's extreme, put a note in there. I believe there's a section for you to put, some comments or whatever, let him know and reach out to him. So Brother Quincy, thank you for that. There we go. I have some comments I need to catch up with. Got all of the announcements. I think we are all set. I'm giving a few more minutes to see if I'm going to get this phone call. This one I'm willing to stay on and ramble on because if this one, Pastor Marion, I cannot. Thank you for that. Lasagna, I thought I saw Lasagna in the room. Oh, there she is. Lasagna, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you. And Sharon is agreeing with me. So true. Financial freedom is free. Listen, I'm trying to get there, y'all. I ain't there yet. I still got a couple of cuffs on my hands by the name of a couple of bills. And we'll leave that right there. But just make sure we are all set. Before I get off, just text. Again, don't forget that we are coming together on Wednesday, the 27th. And also, let me just get that there. Wednesday, the 27th. Don't forget, we're coming together at there we go. All right, y'all. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? I want to make sure we got you set up with the tech there. Let me just get you all set. There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, D.A. Rollins?
I'm well. I have a little bit of a sore throat, but I am fine. And it's not COVID. It's just I was cheering at UMass this weekend for homecoming, so I lost my voice.
And I won't tell the folks what I said in the text, but you could go ahead. You can go ahead and feel free to talk as long as you can. And so thank you so much for calling in, because I reached out to you, and as you always do when I reach out around things like this, you are very responsive. And there was the incident that happened on Saturday, a police involved shooting. I have already told people in general that you can't talk about specifics of the case, but I found myself on Saturday, DA Rollins, I got a call from a city official, and they said, hey, there may be a narrative put out there that, we think you can kind of help, just cause people to maybe wait. And I found myself saying, wait, we need to wait for the investigation and kind of get a cadence from you, from a reform, activist space. But can you just a little bit where you can, what is the process, ma'am?
Yes.
When there is
an excellent question.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me explain. What happens for most people is, let's take it outside of the officer-involved shooting space. Usually there is either a 911 call that comes in or a shot spotter activation. For those of your listeners who don't know what shot spotter is, it's sort of some like mechanical system that when a gun goes off, it sort of calibrates where the exact location of the shooting happened, and the Boston Police or the Mass State Police or some law enforcement entity is immediately notified of those shots. You can actually hear a recording of what it sounds like. So if 5 rounds were discharged, you would hear, boom, 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 or you might hear boom, 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 boom. And I know, that doesn't tell a story necessarily, but we can use the delay or how close it was or loud or what have you to have a narrative. So usually we are reacting to crime. In this circumstance, and I can only give just a few cursory details, I believe a 911 call came in and the police responded to that. Sometimes there are situations where police come upon people. There is no 911 call. They either pull them over or they witness something. And ultimately, if the situation escalates and the officer uses force, right, and up to and including lethal force, then there is always an investigation. In my administration, that investigation happens outside of the DA's office. So I created, James, the first in the nation. It's called the Discharge Integrity Team. Because remember, most of the times when there's a criminal case that the DA's office is bringing, our key witnesses are the police. So we usually, in 95% of the cases, the police are our star witnesses. And the community has every right to question whether, wait a minute, Rachel, so if in 95% of the time you think these guys are great enough to be star witnesses to prosecute people, how are we going to believe that your office, when they use force that is excessive and the person lives, or excessive and the person dies, right, or use force that is lethal, or certainly creates a serious bodily injury, how am I going to believe as a community member that you guys aren't biased in favor of the police because we work with them all the time? So, James, that's why I created the Discharge Integrity Team, which is a retired judge, black male, a retired criminal defense attorney, an active criminal defense attorney, white male, a community member who runs a public, a community health center and is also a survivor of homicide, black female, and an active member of law enforcement. And I, Rachel Rollins, am the 5th member of the Discharge Integrity Team. We do not meet in my office. We meet once a month outside of the office, and we direct and control the investigation. So let me pause there, James, because I can either answer any questions or I can go into the type of things we might look at when an officer-involved shooting happens, like what we review when that occurs.
Uh,
Do you
th-
have questions now, or do you want me to keep going?
I do have just a couple of clarifying questions. So one, thank you for the clarity that you all meet on a standard, consistent monthly basis away from incidents. You don't just convene if there's an incident. You a standing meeting for this?
We have a standing monthly meeting because remember, I inherited several of these from the previous administration. I had 4 fatal officer involved shootings my first year in 2019. I had multiple non-fatal officer involved shootings in 2020. And then we've had a few discharges. You know, for example, James, I even look at beanbag, you know, when a beanbag is deployed or a non-lethal bullet is deployed, right? Or even if there's a shooting, but nobody is hit. I want to make sure that even though those investigations might be smaller, I want to be aware of them so that our discharge integrity team can meet and we can discuss it, right? So, for example, remember in Winthrop when Nathan Allen, the racist anti-Semite, killed 2 Black people in Winthrop?
Yes.
An officer came upon him, repeatedly asked him to drop his weapon. He wouldn't, and the officer discharged, and Nathan Allen lost his life and died.
Yes.
That is going to be an officer-involved shooting, or it's not going to be. It is, and we're investigating that entire situation. So let me answer a couple other questions you have, and then I want to give the listeners a little bit of information about the type of things we might be looking at hypothetically in these circumstances.
The only other question, and I really want you to take as much time as you have and need to educate, is that you said you were the first in the nation, and you talked about it a little bit. So one, thank you for being aware of concerns of integrity, around the community's concern, with the police investigating themselves. Go ahead with the education piece, because I really don't have any more questions. So
yeah, that's okay. And if anyone else does, so basically what normally happens, and you've seen me do this a few times, Commissioner Gross, in 2019. Usually, even though I direct and control the investigation, when it's the police, I never show up at the officer involved shooting. I am usually being told in real time from our first assistant, who right now is Danny Mulhern, and is always on the scene when it happens. You don't see me making a statement next to Commissioner Long, for example, the other night. But most of your listenership, when they hear me or see me, I'm standing next to Commissioner Long because it's usually a non-officer involved shooting and we are aligned. The police aren't a potential party, right? So I want to make sure that I keep that distance in that circumstance. So that's number one. Number two, James, I always want to meet with the family first, even if they, and usually they, are really obviously trauma, like devastated, angry, uncertain, because their loved one lost their life during an encounter with law enforcement. But I often, what I try to do is meet with the family first before I meet with the community or talk about openly about the case. Now, if the family says, we don't want to meet with you, that's fine. That is their choice to make. But I always offer that to the family first. And then usually the Boston police call a meeting of community members. And I am one of the people that shows up and explains the process of what my investigation is going to be. So really quickly, the Boston police has their own internal firearm discharge investigation team. They call it the fitted team. Okay. They always do an investigation of themselves to see what happens when there's a discharge by an officer. But I now, above and beyond that, will always look at that investigation. We sometimes direct and control, and often that investigation, we are deeply involved in what they're looking at. We interview all of the officers that are involved. In this circumstance, I'm not giving information that the public doesn't have yet. An officer was also injured. We are clearly making sure that if the officer is injured or survived, that they get medical attention before they get interviewed, right? We always interview civilian witnesses. We listen to the police radio transmission. We do ballistics evidence or analysis on weapons of the officer or potentially the individual. If there is a weapon that was used there, we do physical evidence from multiple scenes. You know, we look and make sure we're looking at physical evidence, photographs and video evidence from the scene and the area of the incident. We might look at digital evidence and surveillance video from nearby businesses. As I said to you earlier, we might listen to ShotSpotter activation receivers that capture audio. We would, if there is, any bullet discharged hypothetically or weapon used, we'd be doing some analysis of the trajectory of those shots. We do criminalistic testing and analysis. We do mobile forensic analysis, and maybe might look at cell phone records. And then if we need to, we always try to get search warrants to look into the property or where it happens. There was going to be an autopsy and supporting Office of the Chief Medical Examiner documentation. There are medical records that we will likely look at as well. And then, and then James, and then that's just some, right? Some of the stuff. And what we do is we cull through all of that, right? And that takes time. And then we ultimately come up with a determination of a finding. And, what I want to make sure your listeners hear, and this was a really hard concept for me to even understand as the DA before I became the DA, a homicide is a death by another. That is the definition of homicide, right? Your death was as a result of another person causing that death. Now, all homicides aren't necessarily crimes, right? And the police are different than civilians, but you or I, James, even if we have a right to protect ourselves, right? And engage in self-defense, and use any means sort of necessary to protect our life. And that's why you see sometimes cases where somebody dies, there's a self-defense charge that we believe the individual that committed that death could assert, but then they get, 10 or 12 years for having an unregistered, unlicensed firearm, right?
Yep.
So you see that they aren't charged with the manslaughter or the murder, but they are charged with the unlicensed firearm. That occasionally happens. With police, it's a little bit different because they have the right, they have to protect and serve, but they do, standard is very different with respect to whether it was reasonable and justified for a police officer to do that. And that's a legal standard that I am obligated to use. So, look, I think, James, this is great that you're asking these questions. It has become very clear to me that I think we need to educate the community a little bit more about this. And what else I will tell you is when I am notified of when that meeting is, and I'm hoping it's in the next 24 to 48 hours with the community, I will be telling you that, and you are going to attend, I hope, the meeting. It's usually under the previous administration. It was in Boston Police Headquarters, but I am invited as a speaking guest. And although I usually don't, or I say to my children, guests don't get to invite guests, I will invite you to this when I am told about it, or at least let you know. Okay.
I appreciate it. And thank you for speaking and educating with us. I cannot let you pass with what I'm hearing in your voice, because I was going to interrupt and say, you can go because you got to talk to other folks, but this is important. Just tell us how you're doing as a person. You're a mom. You went to the homecoming yesterday. Like, how are you doing away from your role and what you're doing? With all due respect, Rachel, how are you doing?
I really appreciate that, James. I'm doing well. And, I'm learning more, much to the people that I love, my daughter, Russell, other people in my life, to listen a little bit more about making sure that I'm taking care of myself. Because as the work is endless, and there are fights everywhere that we have to engage in, but we also have to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out while doing it, because, you know, we just have to take better care of ourselves. So I promise you, I had although there was an officer involved shooting, and I was on the phone quite a bit getting updates about this, and there's a family that lost their loved one, and there are officers that were injured during the encounter. So this was tragic, certainly, and we will do the hard work of trying to figure out exactly what happened. But I'm grateful that you asked about my mental health, and I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will be in touch. And please let Mike Long know that James Hill said hello. We encountered each other when he was just an officer, and I'll tell you about that later. Thank you so much, DA Rollins, and we're keeping you in prayer. Thank you.
Okay.
Everyone, that was our district attorney who was on the phone and sharing with us the process. I reached out to ask her because, again, I don't know what in this city official's mind was going. Well, I do have an idea. And I think that the district attorney really laid out the process. And again, as I said before, reform extremists and anti-reform extremists are going to, this I think is going to be, and I hate saying the case, the injured officer and the person that lost their life, they are going to, I'm just very concerned, as I use for my mental health Monday word. It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to get ready to go. There are a lot of comments. I definitely have to acknowledge that Jen was mentioning her experience with domestic violence. I also see Charlotte mentioned Trayvon Martin. I also see that Pastor Marion said, and I'll let her know for her, please not to leave Boston. Rena, when we were talking about self-care being intentional, Will Dickerson said that he is praying. Kathy saying you were told of witness intimidation by a state agency trying to cover up child abuse report. Still no reply, 1 year plus. So there were a lot of things that come up when the district attorney came into the room, but I wanted her to come specifically to talk about that process, to hear directly from her, and to hear her say it's first in the nation, and then they meet monthly because of, unfortunately, a backlog. And some of these terms, it can't take away from the human impact of what, past situations and encounters and incidents as she named. And so I'm going to get ready to wrap up. I believe I covered everything. We're going to play this portion with her this afternoon on Spark FM. Folks, please remember that we will have Jelani in the room and also Naisha Deed this afternoon on Spark FM today at 1 and 1:30. All right. We will see you. There's a couple of other guests lined up for this week. I'm just waiting for the confirmation of their time. But we will be back today on Spark FM at 1 p.m. and we'll see you then. Make sure that you go to www.sparkfmonline.com, or if you're on Apple Music, you can just go search Spark FM Online and listen via the TuneIn app. All right. Thank you all for listening in so much today. Kind of a medium brew, not strong, but medium brew today. But we'll be back at 1 p.m. for Midday Java on Spark FM Online. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.